go. I think it's recording. Oh no, it's pending recording, whatever that means. Oh, there we go. We're recording. So first of all, can I just say thank you to all of you for coming, and how lovely it is to see some of you again. And please do feel free to switch your cameras on so we can remember what you look like and enjoy the happiness. I do have a couple of housekeeping questions. The first is, Ollie, have you gone to the office?
She's great.
No, I haven't, Peter. I have maintained delusion for the benefit of my colleagues.
Oh, okay.
Right
I thought I did live in the office, but
well,
you'll
for
see
those of you who don't know, Mr. Norman clearly does live at the office, is all we can say. So the first, couple of housekeeping things before we start. The first is to say thank you ever so much to all of you for taking the time out, and secondly, it's a personal apology. It's taken us slightly longer than I'd originally anticipated to map data, but we're there just about. There's just a couple of small bits of data that haven't been mapped around M42 and M43 housing, isn't it, Alex? Is the last bit of data that hasn't been mapped, but all of the other data has been mapped. So we're in a place now that we can let you have free run on the data. No need to look quite so excited, Sue. It's a positive, exciting day. So what we wanted to cover here was firstly how you can access the data, secondly how you can play with the data, and then thirdly I wanted to have a chat at the end about how we can then start to look at enabling ways for you to interrogate data in more effective ways. And we're starting to come up with some of our own, but obviously I've got other things that I've got other kind of ambitions and objectives from the mayor around how we visualise data for City Hall, and that has benefits for you all as well. So I'm going to hand over. I don't know who's got the slides and who's going next on the slots. It looks like Simon's got the slides, so
yeah. Hang on a sec. Sorry, one sec. I'll just share.
I wonder whether that's going to be the sentence of the year. Can you just hold on one sec? I'll just share the slides. Hold on a second. So I have said that sentence more times this year than any other.
Peter, you're on mute.
Okay, that might be the other one.
Check it based on your conversations yesterday.
Right.
That's showing now.
Right, so second slide.
See, this has only just gone out, and so some people may actually pay it for the time we've checked it. Like one.
There we go. Mark, I didn't know if you wanted to talk through this bit.
I can either talk through it or we can just have a quick demo of it, because it's basically screenshots of what
Okay.
the actual process is anyway. So
yeah, if you want to do a demo, yeah, that's fine.
Yep. One moment. Come up with the other catchphrase. Can you see my screen?
Yeah.
Good. So I'm assuming at this point that everyone knows how to log into the system, or do we need to go through that bit as well?
I think it's worth just going through that bit, just so everybody's on the same page.
Okay, so if I log out.
So for those of you who don't know, the quickest way to get to our data is you'll see the URL at the top, which is abercrombie.london.gov.uk. For those of you who are old school town planners, you'll enjoy the smile about the fact Abercrombie was the first London plan. So we thought we'd have something to keep ourselves entertained on cold winter nights.
Just one little thing on from what Peter's just said, you do need the /dashboard bit on there as well. So that's me logging in. I think, and correct me if I'm wrong here, Simon, but we're looking at setting up multiple spaces, so you'll have one per borough. So at the moment, we're just going in through the default one.
Yeah, that's the idea, Mark. Yeah, everyone will have their own space. Yeah.
And then the sort of discovery area for the data, if you go under the hamburger menu, as it's called, into Discover, And then by default, it will go to the last 15 minutes, which is based on when we last received data. Over here is the different indexes that we're looking at, and you'll pretty much always just want to stay on applications. And then say if I want to look at everything that's coming today, I can click on that. Hopefully we've got some stuff. There we go. Obviously this doesn't mean much at the moment. So if I actually add on some fields that you might want to look at, so if you want the application number, these are the available fields. So you can click application, say LPA name, LPA app number, maybe the decision that you want. So all of the kind of stuff that you want to pull out, we've got the fields down the side here to look at. We can also add some filters. So if you know, I'm assuming we've published this schema somewhere, Simon and Alex.
I think it might. I think it's on our homepage or either the Sway page. Alex, is it? Remember?
How about just share the schema again straight after this,
Yeah,
so everyone's got it.
Okay, so as you start typing, the fields that are available will start narrowing down. So you can see here we've got 2 for borough. We've got this borough and borough raw. The idea is the raw one is probably the one you want to go for, because what will happen then is you'll get a pick list of all of the ones that have been put into the system. So if I click that, we get a nice list here of the different ones that we've got. So let's just pick Westminster for the sake of picking one, which we haven't got any data. When we, so if I temporarily disable that, so you can then, that was just a left click to bring that up. I'll bring back one that actually will have some information. So if I add borough onto this, if I wasn't going blind.
It's in the blue section, Mark.
Ah, there we go. So we'll go with Merton. So it's a good example how to edit the filter. So if I delete that out, start typing Merton. Oh, it is case sensitive. And then save. And then that's then filtered it. So that's a quick example of how to retrieve data, show which fields you want to add on, do some filtering. You can add multiple filters in if you want. Then what you can do is save that off so you can then come back to it. In fact, what I will do before I do that, I'll just show you the date filtering that you've got. So you can put in specific time ranges if you want. If you want to zoom in on this, you can just click that time range and it will then filter to that. But what I'm going to do for the sake of the demo is go to the last 7 days. And then if I click save, and we'll call it Merton last 7 days, we'll click save. And then you go up to share, CSV reports, generate CSV. That'll then go off and queue that to be created. Just depending on how much data we've got, will take a few seconds. Then you should get a notification down here once it's happened. But again, you can carry on using the data as and when you see fit. Possibly not the best example. It's in true Blue Peter style. I think if we then go down to stack management and then report, there we go. So it's come in. So it's just telling us where to go. So rather, you can click that link directly to get to it. But if I show you from here, we've got reporting and there it is. So you can then download the report. It's just your standard CSV file. And just see which monitor it's going to open up on. And there is the data. That's a whirlwind tour of how to discover the data and then save it off for you to play with in Excel should you wish to. Any questions?
Mark,
I think
just one in the chat.
Oh.
Can I ask why Merton have had over 100,000 applications in the last 7 days? Or is that figure on the main page? How many have you got in this table? Scroll down to the bottom.
Oh, hang on, bear with me.
I think the reason probably for that, Stephen, is the date filter is not the decision date or the valid date, but a system generated date. So we probably had a bulk load of records come in the last few days because March, I think you were doing something to the system, weren't you? So it's probably that's all the records in this instance.
Right.
Rather than anything
so just needed to filter on
Well, that's it. I haven't played around with the filtering the export stuff too much, but I have also noticed that we do seem to have not just Merton stuff in the export. So might need to have a look and see whether or not that's something we need to look at a little bit more.
It looked like Mark, it looked like when you were just doing it, to go back to the report, it looked like it was still, Merton was crossed out. So I wonder if that
Oh, right,
still
yes.
hiding it, maybe.
That could well be it, yeah. Let's go back and have a look.
You've just raised a really, really important point, and then Stephen, we'll come to you in a moment, Stephen, if just one moment. When it says last 7 days, that's not a decision made in the last 7 days or any particular action in the last 7 days. The last 7 days relates to the data that we've received. So that creates a slightly annoying nuance here, because what it's done is it's identified all the cases that have appeared in our system in the last 7 days, or where something's changed in our system in the last 7 days. So that's kind of the first point, but you've kind of asked the same question as Jill Savory has, which is how's the best way to limit it by date range? So say, for example, you only wanted a list of cases that appeared where a decision had been made in the last 7 days, Mark.
I think I'd have to have a look at how we can query that off the top of my head, because I haven't got that in place. I don't know if Craig's had a bit more look at that with.
Yeah, we can do that. When it comes to my bit on the dashboard, I'll do a little bit on how to do the date filter. But yeah, you can any field that we have a date on, you can filter out. Use that to filter out the data. So yes,
and there's the data rerun with just Merton in. So that's definitely more like we were expecting.
Good.
So well done. You picked up on my deliberate mistake, and good.
So then we go on to the other question. Stephen Tribeck, you had your hand up?
No, that's been answered. Thank you.
Wonderful. There we go. So carry on.
I think I was done with my bit. I don't know if there was anything else that we need to discuss on that, or hand back to Simon.
So just to pick up on Alex's question there, we are at the stage where we're sort of fixing the plumbing today, and this is a bit of an early piece here. We've got the data in. The next sort of couple months, and Peter will get into that, we are going to start to look at creating consistent reports, looking at dashboards and similar around affordable housing. But we've been sort of dealing with making sure everything in the back end is fixed and patched up and working as it should be, before we start creating things that otherwise we might break. Peter, I don't know if you want to pick up any more on that.
You can already query the dashboard, the affordable housing units. I think that's something that Craig's going to come on to in a moment. So you can query stuff in the way we used to query it, but the stuff that we'll be doing post-Christmas is much more around making that data far more accessible and usable than it currently is. So you can play with it at the moment. It's a tiny bit fiddly, which Craig will talk you through in a moment, but then going forwards, you'll have a really easy way to do it once we've finished off the clever work. Right, so who was next on the presentation? Sorry.
Craig, if you wouldn't mind going through the dashboard bit.
Yeah, sure. So I will share my screen in a second. Can you see that?
Yep.
Excellent. Okay, so we've set up some dashboards as kind of a demonstration of what's possible in the system. So to get to that, you can either go here from the home page, or via the drop-down menu to dashboards, where it will show you a number of dashboards we've set up. I'll take you to demo dashboard 2. And basically this is just a selection of graphs, charts, searches, all held in one place. And that can be used to kind of filter out and see your data more clearly. So if we see here, we've got a number of applications in the system per authority. And if I click on, say, Brent here, that filters out all the data in the other graphs. So we can see things like applications per year by decision date. We can see the statuses of the different applications, application types, development types, that sort of thing. It also appears on a map, so heat map, and we can see in a bit of detail where those applications are. If we click on one of these, we can see a bit of detail about that specific application. Now, to follow up on the question about dates, if we wanted to just look, for example, at this year, so let's say decided this year, so we can enter decision and we'll see a list of the fields appearing. Just click on decision date is greater than 31/12/2019. So if you do the date in this format, you should get the result you're looking for. Let's see what happens. Yeah, and that just updates to show everything we've got in the system with a decision date this year. Now, some of the graphs here, things like affordable housing, that's held in a nested field, which is one of the places where we're just we're sorting out a way of being able to put that in a graph for you at the moment. So it's a bit tricky in Kibana at the moment to get to information basically that's held in a nested field, which includes things like tenure and some of the unit data. Yeah, so we're working on something which I think we're going to comment on shortly that will allow you to see that sort of data. Was there any questions on that? I'm going to take that as a no.
I think the point to point out here is that you can play with the data as it stands. Sorry, Winnie, you've got your hand up.
Yes, thank you. I'm wondering, like, because there are different data fields, is that, we should learn the syntax around the query? It's like, yeah, because I think right now it is, instead of like clicking button, we might need to enter some, coding for the query. So is there a guidance note or something standard that we can follow to execute the function?
Yeah, so I think there's a combination of kind of knowing what the fields are, which you'll get from the schema. And then on the Elastic website, so Kibana is part of the Elastic stack. There's lots of information on how to enter queries. We've got some videos online that will help with that as well, where we've done some bits like this that will help you through the process. And you know, I'm sure if you drop any questions you've got to the team, we can get back to you, and if you need any help with this.
The other point, Craig, just to pick up on that, is if you remove the date bit or everything after decision date, it does give you a bit of a guide, doesn't it? So it does give you a help.
Yeah. So yeah, decision date there, and then it kind of gives you some options there that you can use.
Okay, thank you. Because I think maybe not all officers may know how to, you know, a new experience for them to try to use similar functions or things in order to produce different queries. So because I think that, you know, if we manage to get the head around such syntax, that we can further explore the potential that can be brought by this dashboard. So that's why I'm asking. Thank you.
Yep. Thanks.
I think it's important to note that in addition to how you can access data here, sorry, that's my doorbell.
Someone is at the front door.
They have got a key, it's just the dog walker. In addition to how it sits here, there will be other ways you can access the data through your existing data setup. Maybe it's not my dog walker. Will, can you talk about that for a second around APIs?
Yeah, so with respect to access, I don't know if you guys have been made, I guess, au fait with the architecture of the system, but we are expecting to open up the full set of Elasticsearch APIs basically when we're comfortable that everything within the system is sort of working and fixed together. One of the other things we're also going to have is an ODBC connector, which will allow you to make SQL-like queries directly to the data set. So if you're familiar with those sort of querying languages and things, that means you can use it through any of the interfaces that, you know, pick Power BI, business objects, or anything else to create your own dashboards. Mark, anything you want to add there? Just perhaps one more point is we will be having a fully public-facing instance of the PLD that will, in effect, allow anybody to pull and use this data in whatever format they so desire. So I'm not 100% sure whether we'll have full public access to the ODBC connector, but you'll be able to pull the JSON document through an API provision, which should allow you to use it in a lot of other softwares similarly as well.
I think it's just really important to note that if you are going to be pulling the data through an API into a database that you're using corporately, that you come and have a quick chat with us first, and we'll make sure you're connecting to the right version. Because there's two versions of the database. There's the version that you and us will use, and then there's a public version that operates very separately. So I just wanted to show you the sort of thing that we're talking about inside our own system. And this is where we want to do a load of work over the new year with everybody around visualizing data and interrogating the nested data. So this is Power BI as a tool. It's, from my point of view, it's a whole lot simpler than Kibana, but we want to try and build some of these things that you'll be able to interrogate the data that sits in your own in the system, just in a very simplistic way. So let's pick a random borough. I always pick, let's pick Hammersmith for a change.
It's not going to work now. No, it did work, thank God.
Yeah, it does work. I've been
Don't say
playing with
that.
it. I'm really impressed with how it works, actually. And you can select date ranges, and this is just a far more effective tool. The problem with Power BI is we can only publish the interrogation tools to you. We can't publish you a version of Power BI. That being said, if your organization use Power BI, use Core View, use Business Objects, even in theory, if you use Microsoft Access, you can connect those to this data set in exactly the same way, and you can build the analysis across your borough and all of the other boroughs at the same time. So if that is something you're looking to do, please come and talk to us, because whilst we're looking at having an API from the public version out that other people will be able to access, we'd rather you connected to the core data set so you can see things happen in live time rather than any lag we choose to put on the data. And as we get cleverer with the data, we may choose for certain data sets not to be visible. So that's where we are. Any questions about that? Oh, so the guys have built some really clever ones already. I'll just show you the parking ones, really. I'm really impressed by the parking ones because I think it shows some really powerful messages. So in 20 years of, well, we've been 16 years, but there are some historic data sets in it. So let's choose 16 years. The planning system has produced 379,389 or secured, although not necessarily delivered, and there's a different query you can do with delivered, 379,389 bicycle parking spaces. Now, obviously, some of them are duplicates, and there's questions around how the data is constructed, but you can see instantly that this gives you a far more granular data analytics tool. And this is what we want to start building in January for you all. So, sorry, I can see a question. I don't know whether that was what, Winnie, is it an old hand or is it a new hand?
Old hand, so thank you. Thank you.
And then the second question, Seba.
Yeah, thank you, Peter. I was just wondering, this parking spaces data is being pulled from the LDD directly, so it's the stuff that we input. Okay, so in the cases where a scheme was inputted without the parking spaces or the information was not readily available, it wouldn't show up on there.
Precisely. So it's only as good as it's that classic, isn't it?
Yeah.
Crap data in, crap data out.
Okay.
So it's only as good as the data that's in it.
Okay, fine. Thank you.
On the piece around visualization, Peter alluded to the fact we'll be workshopping some of that, but we're not at this stage fixed to any particular technology solution, open source, closed source. A bit of that will be choosing what is most appropriate. There are some great sort of canvas type tools you can use to visualize data, things like Leaflet, Shiny, some of the sort of more data science industry things that allow you to create quite narrative driven web documents that begin to display some of this data in a live format. So we will be putting something in the diary in the new year to look at discovery. But if you have any thoughts, exemplars, examples where other people have done it really, really well and we should look to mimic, we'd really appreciate that, I think.
So for now, you have access to Kibana and you can do get your data out of it. You can analyze it, you can play with it, you can visualize it on Kibana with the limitations that Kibana has. And I'm sure some of you are far cleverer than we are. But you can already do that piece. But from the new year, we want to try and get in place that visualized dream that I'm going to raise my glass of champagne to every day as I walk past the screen in City Hall, celebrating that there's another planning permission granted or another decision. There's a lot of data now available to you that you've never seen before. So you can actually, for most of the boroughs in London, interrogate the numbers of schemes that have been approved and refused. You can interrogate the types of applications, and you could, in theory, build PS1 or PS2 dashboards for your neighbouring boroughs if you wanted to, with the exception that you can't really do it for major applications because of how we manage those across all the planning authorities. There's a lot more in there now than you've ever had access to previously. So please play. If you come up with anything really exciting and really interesting, please tell us. Please share it amongst everybody, but also please tell us so that we can shout about your fantastic work to other people, because there's a lot of really exciting data and opportunities for analytics in there. Was there anything else we wanted to share here?
I think then the other thing was just kind of next steps. So there was 4 main ones that I had, which were creating these spaces that we mentioned earlier. So the idea in Kibana is that we'll have a space for you all, an individual borough space, so that you can go in, create your own dashboards and not kind of trip over each other's dashboards or do anything that is a bit unexpected because someone else is doing the same thing. So you'll have your own dedicated area, which we'll do in the new year. Secondly, we're going to open up access. We talked about through Power BI, and so that's enabling you guys to have to be able to connect to it, which also in the new year. Thirdly, we'll be having or buying Power BI licenses for ourselves internally, and that's going through the process at the moment, and that will enable us to create those reports and for ourselves and any that you guys may want us to create for you. And then it's the kind of launch of the public facing system, which I think we were aiming at kind of mid to late January, if that's right, if I can remember that rightly.
Nearer to mid-January than late January. We would have ideally liked to have got it out right at the start, but we in practice need to just do a couple of checks and tests on the data, and it's also pointless us having dealt with all of the pain of getting a new data set sorted if we've not 100%, we've not got 100% of the data in there yet for all of the boroughs. So that's where we are.
Okay. Final thing from me as well is just to talk about the feeds. So this data, as you mentioned, Peter, is only as good as the data we're getting in. Thank you for everyone that's set up your data feeds so far. There are still a few which we need to get sorted. So we'll be in touch in the new year about those as well.
Just so we're aware, those authorities that haven't got the data feeds going, so I just realised my camera's not on. How rude of me, I do apologise. For those of you who haven't got your feeds going yet, I know that there's a plan for every single one of them that are missing, but obviously any support you can give us in giving gentle nudges to the people that own the keys to your firewalls are much appreciated. So, is there any other questions at this precise moment? In which case, it only leaves me to come up with 2 more points. The first is on a personal note. I know this hasn't been a particularly easy year for all of us, but I wanted to say thank you to everyone because it's been phenomenal that we've managed to keep this project on track-ish during what has been a really, really difficult year, and it's really only down to all of your hard work that we've been able to do it. So I am very, very, very grateful. The second thing, for those of you who don't know, today is Craig's last day. So I wanted to say a public thank you to Craig for all of your hard work. You joined us. Yes, of course, we'll get the links out to you. We are in the process of finding the appropriate replacement for Craig, but nobody will ever fill Craig's big shoes because Craig's worked so hard on this project. So it's a public thank you to Craig for that hard work as well. And we are all super jealous of what Craig's going to do next, but I'll let him choose to disclose if he wishes to. So thank you all. I will leave you to it and have a really wonderful Christmas. We'll follow this up with an email with the YouTube link to the video of this meeting. But as I say, you're all going to have loads and loads of questions. We're here to support and help, and we're also here to support and get more data out there. And the new year will bring loads more opportunities for us all to get together and find ways to interrogate what is now probably going to be one of the most interesting data sets for development in London. And we've got some real opportunities to make a difference and land some messages for all of your organisations, which is really exciting. So anyway, have a really lovely Christmas, have a great break, and we'll see you all next year. Take care then. Bye everyone.
Cheers.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Merry Christmas. Happy New Year.
Bye-bye. Happy New Year, everybody. Thank you.